back, ladies and gentlemen, to the DoorDash LCO, where I'm still waiting on my dinner to get here, but it is going to taste so good when it does. I'm going to be so full, and I dropped my pen again. I don't know what this running thing is. Anyway, I don't need a pen to throw to this. It's from the fans. We have some content from you guys, and specifically some of the fans from Brazil. It's actually JB, who's not from Brazil, but Brazilian Pet fans watching LCO at 2 a.m. They're doing a very damn good job.
That is very
I like that
good.
one.
Very
That's a good
good.
Solid meme coming out of JB. Thank you very much for sending that one in. But again, you know, these long games, they are putting us behind schedule, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because that means there's more DoorDash LCO action for everyone at home to watch. And speaking of, let's move towards match 2 of the day, which is going to be Dire Wolves and Gravitas. Now, do you think we're on for maybe another upset here? Can we see Gravitas coming out and continuing this lead, maybe going to see peace at the top of the ladder?
Great question. You'll have to find out through my predictions.
He's doing it again!
I don't think they can. Gravitas, it's like, if we look back at their last game, not only was it like a very long 40-plus minute affair, it was triple Elder Dragon. They had an Ocean Soul. Like, it was a little bit too insane. And I don't think the Dire Wolves is the type of team to fall victim to that. There was still a lot of positives that we should celebrate from this team. I think overall they did look much improved from the first split. But just thinking about the absolute madness that it required for them to win the game when they were pushed by Legacy, I don't know if we'll see that more than once in a row.
Yeah, I wonder if that is inherently a Legacy game, though. You know, it seems like they tend to bring teams down to their level at times. So, look, I have to say, good signs from Gravitas. That's the main takeaway from me from yesterday's match. Akano, I thought, did really well early game on Xin. Safa, obviously, playing the late game quite nicely on that Aatrox, but I suppose when you get to that point, you know, you get to that point on Aatrox, if that makes it any better for him. Either way, yeah, look, I mean, it's a fairly new roster. Obviously, the majority of these players have sort of been a bit of a shake-up in a way. We've got Kiyose and Thomas Shen coming through from last season. So again, I'm prepared to give Gravitas a bit of time, and I was relatively happy by what we got yesterday.
Look, I have to point out as well, it was a note I forgot to say in the post-match after their game yesterday for Gravitas, but Floppy, there was a point, I don't think it's in the replays, he was on about, I don't know, 5%, maybe 10% HP there as Braum. It was after one of the fights around the Dragon Pit, just after one of the Ocean Drags was there. And you know the bush that pops up in the pit when you have the Ocean Drag? He just backed in it. He went for the recall. Everyone was going around the Dragon Pit, and he just pressed B, let it happen, and wrote it out. And I was like, he's got a very large confidence for doing that. So shout outs for Floppy for that. But we will have a quick chat about Dire Wolves as well, because we really liked what we saw from them coming out yesterday too, Jordan.
Yeah, look, I mean, I didn't feel like there was too many standouts actually for Dire Wolves yesterday. I felt like it was more of an effort by committee for them, and it was quite evidently quite a difficult match. I mean, Pentanet's never going to be an easy team to beat. So overall, I don't know that we got to see everything that we're going to get to see from Dire Wolves. I think, again, we're going to be looking towards these first few weeks, and there's going to be that little asterisk, right? Because we've got Gunkrab in the support role, which, you know, it's obviously not their traditional support. Cupcake, we're going to be waiting for his return and sort of seeing how that really elevates and boosts the team. So it's hard to sort of quantify Dire Wolves at the moment. I think they should have enough to beat Gravitas today, but as to whether or not I'll be drawing too many conclusions from their Week 1 games, probably have to be leaning towards the no side of that discussion.
Well, you've heard our thoughts, and it's time to hear from Nat and the players as well. Nat, let's bring you in. How you doing? You had a little break there. What's going on? Did you do some painting, you know, in your smock? How'd that go?
Yeah, I've got a League of Legends mural going on behind this banner behind the wall here. You'll have to wait till under split to see it, though. So
are you designing Rusty's tattoo?
Yeah, and I'm going to paint it on my wall at the same time. Yeah, well, don't know why I'd want to do that.
Why not?
It's now a shrine to my tattoo. Thank you for that.
I just wanted to let that hang for a moment. Anyway, Nat, who do you have down on the sidelines there?
I've pulled in Safa and Shock, and I wanted to start off. I didn't get to interview yesterday, Safa, but holy smokes, congratulations on that ending. It was absolutely insane. I loved seeing your player cam reaction. You just looked absolutely ecstatic. But how is the feeling in the team today off the back of such a great win?
Yeah, I think overall the teams kind of went back during the break between the splits and just really came together and started working better as a team. So I'm pretty happy with everyone.
Do you enjoy doing a little bit more of the shot calling, and is that something that you're going to bring in today's game?
Yeah, so I think we started to incorporate everyone's like roles, if that makes sense, and figuring out what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are. So yeah, definitely doing the shot calling is something that I'm most comfortable on in the later stages. So yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing it a bit more. Shock, what about you guys? You did unfortunately get a little bit of a loss yesterday against Pentanet, and you're still not your full default main roster. So how are you guys feeling coming into this one, seeing Gravitas get that win yesterday too?
I think, like, obviously we're confident going against Gravitas, but for us it's more to keep putting into place like the stuff we changed after Split 1. Like, we made a lot of changes like during the off season, and so we really just want to make sure we're doing those things in these games. Yeah.
Is that going to be a lot down to draft you guys against Gravitas, or is it really just focusing on your playstyle more so?
I think it has like quite a lot to do with draft as well. Like in Split 1, we played very like low proactivity comps and kind of just like played for scaling. But I think like now we're kind of playing more like proactive comps and stuff that can like do stuff on the map early. So I think that'll play like a bit more to our strength.
I look forward to seeing that. Safa, I also want to ask for you guys, what do you think is going to be the win condition against Dire Wolves?
Can't share all the trade secrets, but yeah, there are definitely weaknesses in that team that we hope to exploit. So yeah.
I understand that you can't let too much of the strategy leak, but the last question I have is for you, Shock. It is a bit of a question request, and I don't want to get it wrong here, so I'm going to say, who do you think will end up in the wrong neighborhood today?
Well, I have it on good authority that Gravitas will be in the wrong neighborhood after this game.
Disagree.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, disagree.
We better not deliver to the wrong neighborhood after.
I love it. I'm looking forward to it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and good luck in the game today.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
I want to know what that means. As the resident boomer on the desk, I need to find out just for peace of mind. Now, let's get into predictions just to try to make a bit more time. Has anyone gone for Grav here? I wouldn't be surprised. No one on the desk has so far. Nat?
No, I didn't. It was hard because, again, Dire Wolves aren't with Cupcake, but Gravitas still hasn't shown that they can confidently close out a game. They did close it yesterday. It wasn't an absolutely like, oh my goodness, they're a whole new team sort of win. I think it is still going to be a pretty close one, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they pull out.
Very cool, very cool. Now, anyone else want to say anything before we jump into Champ Select?
I am so confident in my prediction, Mac, that I put 22,700 channel points on this game.
You're not allowed to do that!
Why not?
You're not allowed.
Who says who?
Me, because
Certainly
I
not.
want those channel points.
Certainly not a man in a pineapple shirt. You are not stopping me from putting channel points on this game, Mac.
These pineapples put me at the top of the food chain, Jordan. You remember that. Now, before we jump into Champ Select, it is time to have a quick look at some content, because content is king. Let's have a look at what Dire Wolves have been cooking up.
Dire Wolves composition obviously wants to group up. Oh! Cupcake is literally smurfing right now with these hooks. Goes for the instant box into Exhaust. Unfortunately, no follow-up right now, but they can erect the whoa! And there is the super mega death rocket.
Just takes down Sybil. Mel's going to get hooked here as a deterrent as well. We're looking at junglers, but no chance.
It's just not enough. It's just not enough. He just falls on down an instant, then gets stuck in a Jinx traps as well. That is insult to injury. Shock is huge, hitting double digits now.
To give up their blue buff. Flag who was in base, whereas Cupcake had walked up with the bot lane and now down on the bot side of the map. What is Mboma doing? He's dove on top of Gun Crab, and that's not worked out at all.
I mean, Mboma uses the ult.
Off your flash play. Yep. Yeah, it is indeed. You called it. The death sentence afterwards. Exhausted. Destroyed. First blood for Dire Wolves. That needs to come back to haunt him for these next second fights. Oh no, he's chunked. He juked into the hook.
Split push bot lane, takes the inhibitor and threaten the rest of the game. Teleports in.
Oh, ML just gets blown up, and Curzio decides now is the time to make a difference. Jumps on top of Shock, uses Death Mark. It's not going to be enough damage. Now Baron doing so much work for Direwolves. Legacy was stuck in the pit. These performances, and he might actually pick up a solo kill here.
He's certainly looking for it right now. There is no ultimate, there is no ghost. He's trying to charge away, but he gets soloed out here by Clear.
Well, that's a little bit what we have to look forward to, Rusty. Very nice video. Love that one. Don't know who put it together, whether it was the LCO production team or Direwolves. Shout-outs regardless. Nice one, but we're deep into the draft here, Rusty. So anything sort of catching your eye immediately? I'd have to say probably the Karma Flex from Gravitas. The first thing to note specifically, but leaves Ezreal open, leaves Rumble open. There's a lot there for Direwolves to play with already.
Yeah, so the only thing that really stands out to me is just looking at generally what Gunkrab and Kalrock are going to be playing. Yesterday was Senna with Wukong. I thought, and I know that Gunkrab is like a Karma type of player, so I was wondering where he'd choose to go comp-wise. He also can play things like the Nautilus, but like you would expect from an 80 carry main who has only really subbed in the support role when needed a couple of times, that his pool will be limited. So we're not exactly sure what to expect from him. However, when you pick the Ezreal up for yourself, your life is a lot easier. You can play whatever you would like, whatever you're most comfortable on, because Ezreal kind of does the rest of the work himself.
Indeed, and it's going to actually be a Leona added to the composition here for the Direwolves. So it's sort of in the same vein as what he was playing yesterday, right? Wukong, you want to just jump in there, you want to sort of provide a bit of space for your team, be a bit of a, I mean, in a sense, kind of a tankier presence. So it seems to sort of go hand in hand with the Wukong in a way. Obviously, the lane's going to play out quite differently now that he's not having to farm. But I suppose this should be fairly straightforward for Direwolves. I mean, Leona's one of those champions that I think is, I don't want to say easy to pick up, but you kind of know what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, the Ashe is the one thing that isn't normal in that vein. We've gone for a pretty early Ashe 80 carry here. Karma Ashe is a very oppressive 2v2 bottom lane, and you can pretty much for free here just go for the cleanses Ashe and only really worry yourself with the Leona. Looking at mid-game team fights though, it's just really bloody difficult to be an Ashe in general, isn't it? Everything kills you. There's so much damage running around on Summoner's Rift at the moment that it's just a dangerous place to exist. And, you know, Ashe may well be the queen of the grey screen if the rest of the Direwolves comp continues the way it is. Karma can only do so much. Xin Zhao still a very good pick. Mentioned this last game, Jordan, but very good into the Rumble because you can use your ultimate and engage and there's no way an Equalizer does any damage to you. So I like the draft so far from Gravitas. In terms of their own individual comp, not so much what they have to deal with.
Yeah. Interesting, both of the junglers getting to play the champion that they were allowed yesterday as well. So we've got 2 in a row for Rumble only and 2 in a row for Akano on Xin Zhao. And I think he did pretty well yesterday actually on Xin, so I'm quite excited to see what Akano can do here again. Do have that Nocturne locked in for Direwolves. That'll be one of those flex options that you spoke about. Could go mid, could go top. And Akali for Gravitas. So, Yosei feeling a little bit of chazzing it up this game, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Ari gets banned from him, and if there's one thing that we've all learned here as even commentators, it's that he's not playing Ari as much anymore. It's one of the first things he said. He's no longer a one-trick.
Yep.
He's branched out to new champions, but still the respect being demanded by Kyosei, of course, is one of the best Ari players that we have, but it's an Akali and it's a Viego. Now, Viego can go mid, Akali can go top, so overall, it's a very flexible draft on the top side here by Gravitas, and they would like, I would say, their magic damage dealer in the Akali to have one of the better lanes here. And with Sylas to round this out, there's just going to be a lot of dueling in those 1v1s.
Should be a fun game.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot of playmaking potential out of both of these rosters. You know, you think about what Akali can do, what Viego can do, diving in there, the Ashe ultimate, Enchanted Crystal Arrow coming through could provide some fun. And Shock can also use Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
I was going to say, that's exactly what I was thinking. One of the funniest things I've ever seen, I think it was in the LCK, there was like a 25 Magi stack Sylas who just straight up took an Ashe ult and one hit the Ashe with it. And it was just great. So quietly hoping to see that just because it's funny.
Ooh. Actually saw the Silas go to the top lane. I thought it was going to end up in the mid lane here, but it seems to have landed in the hands of Claire. Interesting. And I feel like, again, it's sort of much of a muchness, really. Both of those two be happy to play either champion. Should be able to flex quite nicely. But yeah, this is an interesting one. I mean, looking at the way that this sort of pans out a little bit later on in the game as well. I mean, I'm again thinking about that 6-item Ezreal that we saw yesterday from Order. I don't know that we get to that point, but if we do, is there enough there to deal with that for Gravitas? I suppose you might actually be able to find something out of this, right? You got an Akali, you got a Viego, a couple of champions that can really just blow someone up if they get the opportunity. And a Xin there as well. So everyone need to be a little bit careful this time for Direwolves.
Yeah, the funny thing there as well is if Viego manages to take down the Ezreal, he's got 12 seconds of being a very broken champion himself, so he gets to double down on just how broken he is. Viego himself, obviously a very strong champion in its own right, and it is going to be Kiyose playing that one in mid lane. I believe it is Shock playing the Nocturne. However, I think one interesting thing here is that while Claire is a former mid laner, has been learning top lane champion, Shock's always been a big proponent on playing tankier, like top lane style champions in the mid lane himself. So it is amazingly flexible between both of them, seeing a Silas and seeing a Nocturne. And I always look forward to watching the drafts from Direwolves with how flexible they can be. My concerns still exist though, Elfish Guy for Gravitas, and that is the bottom lane. I think that they are an exceptionally strong 2v2, but there's just so much damage that can murder them at level 6 and beyond.
Well, here we can confirm that Claire is indeed playing the Silas, and it will be Shock on Nocturne. And it's time to hear from the man himself. Farmer from Direwolves is here for an interview and a chat. And Farmer, it's great to be back, and obviously involved in the LCO. How are you feeling coming back into Split 2?
I'm good. I'm excited. We had a bit of a shake-up with our management team behind the scenes, but I'm still here and I'm happy to be back. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, awesome. And actually, that was something that I wanted to ask you about, although not specifically. We did just have that interview pre-match with Shock, and he said there was lots of changes in the off-season. So, I suppose I wanted to touch on that a little bit. Was that kind of what he was referring to, or do you think that that was more of an in-game thing? And is there anything that you can shed some light on for us in that respect?
I'm not really sure exactly what he was referring to there, because there are a few things that have transpired, but I think basically, specifically to our gameplay, we obviously weren't happy with the outcome of last split, so we were just trying to figure out ways to really improve on that. And we had some growing pains when we first came back to the split, but thanks to input from a lot of people, and also just spending a long time trying to figure out what's working and what isn't, we're making really good progress, and I think that's all you can really hope for, right?
Yeah, indeed. And I suppose that was something else that I wanted to sort of pick your brains on, was that I think there was this feeling maybe that Direwolves fell a little bit short of where they wanted to last season. I suppose the question is sort of how are things feeling going into Split 2, and more so, is Direwolves in a better position now going into this split after having played out Split 1, and are you sort of anticipating stronger competition, or what are your thoughts just essentially on Split 2 and the teams that are shaping up at the moment?
Yeah, so I think that obviously, like I said, we weren't happy with the outcome of last split. I think that the teams that we're facing this split, it's a bit weird, because I actually think that the teams at the bottom of the table have stepped up in a few ways, and the teams at the top have really not really improved. They're just they're still strong, obviously. We lost last night, but I don't feel like they've gotten stronger than they were last split. So I think it's more of an even ground everywhere. Games can go either way, but in terms of Direwolves specifically, I think that a lot of what happened in the off season just enabled us to really get to the core of some of the issues we have, and just be open about everything with one another. And it's really helped us, I think, to improve our ability to progress long term. And that's the most important thing, because last split we made it all the way to playoffs. We finished second in the regular split, but we just didn't perform when we needed to, and so hopefully I'm confident that we'll do a lot better in that regard because we've made those changes.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
we've just done that. Yeah.
I mean, it's good to hear the confidence levels are still there for Direwolves. And
Oh, yeah,
the
for
last
sure,
one
for
before I let you go is obviously the elephant in the room. Obviously, you know, Gunkrab in that support role is something that was discussed a lot yesterday and probably will be something that's going to be discussed a fair bit today. But I just want to know what the process was like, kind of getting him integrated into that role, and has it been sort of a smooth transition, or has that been a little bit of a shake-up that you guys are sort of having to get used to in a way?
No, I wouldn't say it was smooth. You know, last split. Well, first of all, Gunkrab has support experience in LCO, and last split, when we needed him to, he would sub in for our scrims and would perform well anyways. Obviously, this is not ideal for us because Cupcake is very, very important to us, like in the comms and in our macro and everything. And so, like having him not around for the first 2 weeks is like, it's definitely a blow, even in like the sense that he can't really contribute outside of the game at all because of his uni stuff. But you know, Gunkrab and Calrock are both exceptional players. Like I think after the last few weeks of scrims, we've been scrimming like this for like a few weeks. We're at a point where we're pretty happy with where we're at, and we're pretty sure like we can beat everyone with this lineup.
Yeah, it's a good thing that there's an extra bunch of games on the back end as well, so plenty more time to catch up if things don't start the way that you'd want. Either way, Farmer, very much appreciate your time. Always great to interview you and kind of have a chat. So best of luck, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, Rusty, we just missed it. We were so close. We almost got it done without a first blood, but right on the end there, Claire able to pick up the first blood onto Sapphire, and that's a great sign for Direwolves. Look at the CS gap as well.
Yeah, I was waiting to see the CS differences. That's the one big thing that we weren't obviously able to watch. Overall, you know, it was just those full jungle clears. Mid has been a lot of pressure. Kyosei not doing great against Shock, but here we go.
There's a storm brewing. Zenith Blade dodged by Kyosei with that flash, but Akano cops it. Now Shock is the focus. This is mutually assured destruction for everyone. Or maybe not, as Kyosei pops the ulti and survives long enough to jump back to safety. Gravitas find the 1-for-0.
Yeah, Viego's an absolute specimen of a champion, isn't it? Gets the resets, able to get that extra health back from jumping into the dead body of Shock, and then can get a reset on the ultimate to dash away once again. We see very quickly there as well how Claire's able to get that first blood. And, you know, for what it's worth, we've seen top winning in the 1v1. We've seen mid winning in the 1v1, both in the direction of Direwolves. Gravitas have been doing everything they can to try and help make it a little bit better, but here we go.
Oh, Sapphire in a spot of bother. Equalizer not quite landing. Will be forced to recall. Doesn't have teleport available, so that's going to be a big creep wave lost. Doesn't look like he's actually confirmed the recall, so he'll stick around.
These trades continue in mid lane as well. It's a Vamp Scepter picked up here, though, by Gravitas' mid laner Kyosei. Of course, you can see the stats of Akano on your screen. The big thing for me, just quickly looking at this as well, is the 80% kill participation is a pretty big deal for Gravitas.
Well, might have to be this game as well, because Kyosei is under pressure. I think Akano might be getting in the kill participation for all the wrong reasons, but just able to sneak his way out again. Oh, another lucky break for Gravitas, I should say.
Yeah, it really does feel like there's a bit of luck involved here, because they're steadily losing their solo lanes more and more. There's a lot more activity that we're seeing from Claire. Only's been getting around the map doing his job. And Akano, even Floppy for a time there as well, has just been playing Protector, right? Just using that priority that they have. You can see him moving up the river now, just trying to get a semblance of control, just a piece of the map to go their direction. You know, weathering the storm is important for the composition of Gravitas. The first item completion for Sapphire, or having the Hextech alternator with Ignite and ult up is a big deal, right? That's a spike. Kyosei in mid as well. Now that he's got the Vamp Scepter, will sustain through a little bit more of the just onslaught that you're seeing come out of Shock on this Nocturne, because it is unrelenting. So that time is important, but that's not going to say that they'll get any more lane priority. It just means that they'll be better off surviving in those lanes.
Crab roaming around with Only. So It's almost like double jungle-esque at the moment. That was interesting, actually. Only he's quite confident, just walking away. Cool Guys don't look at dead Wraiths either way. Safa feeling the same about Claire. Cool Guys don't look at dead top laners, and he manages to find the solo bolo back.
I've played this matchup before. Ovishkai is maybe one of the most volatile lanes that I've played, because at any moment, a single mistake is a death. You really do need to, first of all, not be ignited, which is the one advantage that Safa has, because you're a W max Silas. That healing is everything.
Oh, hang on a second. The arrow connects. Gunkrab doesn't have flash here, and he is getting chunked down. Akano finding a way to make impact in the bot lane, but I have to give you credit to Thomas Shen. Nice arrow there.
He flash ulted. The ult goes through minions. But he did flash ult, was able to cover some distance. We'll see the top lane skirmish here. It's Claire going in. And again, what is the difference? Why is this kill able to happen so successfully? It's not just that they're sharing the same Akali ultimate. It's that Akali had the ultimate where Silas did not, and it was the ignite for the actual execute to stop healing from that Kingslayer.
Yeah, did look good to begin with for Claire. Got the initial engage, but Safa had the legs in the fight, which unfortunately for Claire, he did not. So it's actually a 3-1 lead in terms of the kills for Gravitas, and a little bit of a gold advantage as well, but it's not been translated into any objectives yet. You can see some pings being put down on top of the Rift Herald. No one looking towards Dragon just yet, but Direwolves are starting to roam their way up, and Rift Herald is in fact started.
Yeah, I mean, the Leona being here is probably just going to be more than enough of a difference. Only is pretty capable of soloing this one regardless. Akano, of course, and Gravitas in general, not looking to contest the top side of the map. Bot lane is the one where they have the priority, and it is not those solo laners, so they're going to try and use that while they can. The scream from a dead Geraldine will come across, and they'll know, of course, with confirmation then that it's gone. And probably move forwards here into vertical jungling if they can. They need to be respectful, however, of the teleports about to be up for Claire, and Shock having that paranoia.
Crab doing a good job of keeping the experience up. Level 6 alongside Floppy, who's... It's strange, right? Because Gunkrab feels like he's barely even been in lane. He's been walking all over the place. But yeah, he's able to match the experience, which is always something that you need to juggle when you're going to be sort of roaming around like that on the support. So he's doing a good job so far. Despite being one death and no assists or kills, I feel like Gunkrab's having a degree of impact here just by existing, which is always good.
Yep. Only doing the expected thing here as well. He's moved into the enemy blue side jungle. And because Shock's able to consistently force priority, I was expecting to see a 3-man dive top. Now instead they've brought only towards mid. Very difficult to dive.
Wow.
And they've only just readdressed that perhaps they just go back to their lanes and reset. But when you know that the map has been split vertically, you know where the where the Xin Zhao is, then you can probably afford to use that Herald to break some plates in top lane. It doesn't seem like they want to force it fast, though.
Things seem to be going nicely in the bot lane for Gravitas. We spoke about how difficult it can be to deal with the Ashe Karma combo, and it seems that is starting to pop up here for the Direwolves. Already a couple of plates going down. Any time that Gunkrab even presents a degree of a threat, there's a Karma Q in his face, there's an Ashe W in his face, and just that constant damage tick that comes through from these sort of poke champions is really annoying to deal with. He's run out of pots in the refillable potion as well, so it's all going to be really impactful damage from here on for Gravitas, unless Direwolves can find that engage.
We're effectively at a point in the game where every summoner spell is available, bar the flash of Mr. Thomas Shen down there in the bottom lane, as Ghost is, of course, going to get that reset cancelled. And continuing at the current game state, I feel like that priority means that, it's basically Direwolves' turn to make a move, make a call, and try and get an advantage. And so far, a little bit tepid in their approach. Oh, hang on.
Oh, that's not the fight that you want to be taking, unfortunately, Safa.
Or is it?
He's hiding in the shroud and has the backup from Akano. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Never mind.
It's not.
It is not. Claire survives, only able to help him out enough. And I mean, it was the equalizer, really. I feel like that was the MVP there.
Yeah, huge damage, but also, like, not only do they play... Oh, hang on.
Oh, hang on. I'm trying to take a drink. Can everyone just slow down for a second? Apparently not. Look at that Zenith Blade. He's gone flying to the moon. But Kyosei should survive. Not enough damage coming through just yet from Shock. No more Paranoia available either, and so can't close the distance. Up in the top lane, Rift Herald will perhaps prompt the first turret of the game. Safa just in time to save the turret.
Yeah, Stiff Breeze will break that top lane outer turret, and of course the first structure of the game would fall. Thomas Shen and Floppy on the other side of the map trying to get some kind of vision control in, but Gunkrab is the one who moves successfully as well in mid. At the end of the day, Kyosei, while he's got to the Blade of the Ruin King completed now, did not have enough damage before. But it was dicey for a moment. You know, Gunkrab may have fallen, I thought, and given that reset over to the Viego, and that's the last thing that you want to do. But you can say really at this point, while it may not have been perfect in how we got there, the expected result did happen. The top lane pressure and gold, at least before 14 minutes, plates were given over to Direwolves, and the kills went their way using the Herald play.
Divine Sundra completed for Calrock. Definitely a big power spike for Ezreal.
Oh my god. Also, it's a Kraken Slayer, Ash, into 5 champions that can 100% kill you.
I mean, I suppose Thomas Shen feeling confident. He's got the cleanse, I suppose. That'll help. And Farmer there as well. Or maybe not, as Equalizer does land. So does True Shot Barrage, but not enough damage. Floppy will walk away fine, and in the end, the result is the same for Gravitas. They do manage to clear out the vision in their jungle, which is what they were looking to do, given Dragon is up in 25 seconds.
Yeah, they have pretty much absolute control of the bottom side river. Claire also moving towards mid right now as well. Will look, but really it's just about pushing Kyosei back more than anything else, ensuring that the wave priority still belongs to the side of Direwolves, not Gravitas. And Akano smartly, of course, shows himself in mid to just try and help that get that priority himself.
Not looking too crash hot here for Thomas Shen as he tries to run away. Oh! Barely dodging the Ezreal Q. Here comes the rest of the reinforcements. The cavalry have arrived, and so has the enchanted Crystal Arrow, which locks up the Rumble. Safa dives deep. Gunkrab dies as well. Gravitas are, I want to say, looking pretty good.
I mean, that was a nice skirmish. You got to give them credit for that one. The shoe definitely feels like it's on the other foot, and this is definitely a different Gravitas that we've seen from Split 1 to now. Safa with some good skirmishing, not some good recalling. Of course, we counted a legacy icon. Going to be shown. We'll watch this one more time because it is a good 2v2. It's a correct kill, and it's a nice little move from Shock down here just to confirm that kill in the first place. Flash is used and barely surviving. The Q almost scraping. And they go on to Akano, 2 members strong, not realizing just how little damage they would have. And staring down the high damage trio that were rotating just to help their bottom lane. They give away a kill and 2 in the end that maybe weren't necessary.
Ticking over quite nicely for Gravitas now. You have to think 6 kills on the board, a couple of dragons. 150 CS up for Kyosei in mid. He's 2-0-1, starting to come online on that Viego. And inevitably, the Ashe will be a threat, especially when you've gone Kraken Slayer. It feels like Safa's dealing a bunch of damage too, so I'm starting to feel a little bit confident actually from Gravitas. I don't know if my confidence is misplaced. Don't have quite the same foresight, I would say, as you, Rusty. Solar Flare, and this might be why you want Gale Force, because there was just nowhere to go for Thomas Shen. Didn't have Flash, didn't have Cleanse, couldn't do anything, just dead.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen a few more times, if I'm going to be honest with you, as, oh, he's gone for it.
Maybe shouldn't have gone for it, because he's now gone.
He absolutely should not have gone for it. Also, Safa has died in mid to Calrock, and just as we maybe praise Gravitas for having a chance, just like that. It gets completely tossed to the wayside, and a couple of easy picks to the way of Direwolves and a lot more control over the map belonging to them.
That's unfortunate, isn't it? Because they were starting to shape up nicely, but Direwolves have been given a reprieve, and they are now almost 3,500 gold in front. Grab themselves a Rift Herald here as well. Replay will perhaps give us some of the answers that we missed.
He just hits his spells. That's what separates the good Ezreals from the great Ezreals, everyone. They just hit their spells. All you good Ezreals miss your spells, don't ya?
It's pretty much the only thing I can hit on Ezreal. I think that's part of the problem sometimes.
That is, yeah, it's actually, like, unironically, the great Ezreals auto attack a lot more. They don't just press Q, but it sounded more fun.
It did. I appreciate the sentiment and where you're going with it. Calrock getting his props where they're deserved. 2-0 and 0 now. Farming up a Storm. Blind Sundra obviously completed already. He'll be looking for the Manamune fairly shortly as well. And at that point, that's when the Ezreal really starts to hurt.
Yeah, he's very close to just being unbearably annoying and powerful overall. Kyosei probably is that point. Like, again, the damage from Gravitas is very high. They have an engage tool in the Ashe, so even if Thomas Shen does nothing for the rest of the game, he will still be able to press his ultimate and find members on the enemy team. There is a spell shield for Shock. There may well end up being a Zhonya's, of course, for Claire and for Only, but there's no cleanse, right? There's no way to actually get out of that stun if it connects. And that's an avenue of entry for the damage of Gravitas. You know, you use that Karma movement speed that is presumably going to be a Shirelia's once the Mythic is completed to close that gap and actually start the fight off and just win through sheer overwhelming damage.
Equalizer down in mid. Thomas Shen, he's back at it again and narrowly escapes away. Safa decides now is the time to go, but very squishy on that. Akali deep on top of Calrock, under the tower, on fire, dead. Nowhere to go for Safa, but he does get the shutdown bonus. 250 gold for that one, so quote-unquote worth? I'm not sure, especially now that the Rift Herald's been dropped and Direwolves have massive amounts of cryo in mid.
Yeah, it's worth only for Safa. Definitely not worth for Gravitas as a whole. The charge in mid lane, breaking the outer turret as well, just a lot more control over the map in general belonging to the Direwolves. A lot less safe in mid lane, and remember that you've got that Ezreal constantly just throwing skill shots at you. So one of them connects now, and it could be much more dire for you. The Wolves able to pretty easily convert that kill into a structure and most likely move towards the dragon now as well. Claire having to walk here and of course be in the area, but you know, you don't want to give the third Drake of the game in a row over to the side of Gravitas. You don't want to give them that win condition if it's needless at this point if you're ahead, and that's where we're at.
Dragon does spawn. Not a huge amount of vision in the river for either team at the moment. Direwolves have the Scuttle Crab. Unless that's a ward right there. It is the Scuttle Crab. And just jostling for positioning in mid, trying to shove that wave in, which will obviously benefit them greatly. Gravitas are the first movers. They are bold enough to start the dragon here as well. Solar Flare is a good one. Lands right on top of Mr. Floppy, and he is out of the picture straight away, which is bad news for Ashe. Crystal Arrow does connect nicely, and Guncrab cops the brunt of it coming through from the Viego. Thomas Shen and Kyosei are just charging their way forward while the dragon is being completed. Claire decides now is the time to re-engage, and Gravitas might have overcommitted a little bit here. Kyosei not able to complete the 1-on-3. It looked so good for Gravitas for a moment, and then it fell to bits, but they got away with the dragon.
Floppy doesn't get a chance to compete in that fight, right? Just dies far too quickly at the very beginning of it. It ends with a quad kill there for Claire also. So the Sylas going absolutely insane, has the Akali ultimate to steal. And you know, the interesting thing about that last fight is that it felt like a bunch of skirmishes on a couple of fronts. You've got Shock trying to engage with the Paranoia, knows that he's not safe, and Ashe Arrow just comes in and finds them afterwards. But because it's a 4v5, they're lacking the shield, you know, they're lacking the movement speed. Gravitas just slightly behind, perhaps, where they would want to be. Claire keeps the Kano in the pit, right? He's looking for the dragon. Safa just manages to snipe this one out, uses the second part of the E to secure the Drake, but is then locked in the pit. No way out. And Claire's able to use that Akali ultimate that he stole to cover the distance and find that fourth kill with a nice stasis there as well from the stopwatch. Big plays from the Sylas. Nice team fight from Direwolves, but Gravitas still showing us what they can do.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what a team fight looks like for Gravitas if they have the 5-on-5, because that Karma could have made all the difference. I don't know if Exhaust was available at the time of the fight, but it is now. You know, so that's a big deal. Moonstone Renewer just finished for Floppy as well. And if you can keep Thomas Chen alive a little bit longer, start to activate him, and Ash starts to turn into a bit of a machine gun, similar to what I was talking about with Cogmore last game. Maybe not to the same extent, but Ash has a fair chunk of damage coming through once the Q is laid down.
Ash does have very high damage. I will absolutely not contest that one. It's just the ease of which you can utilize that damage or even hit a skill shot or auto attack without being punished. Oh, God.
Oh, rough choice there from Sapphire. We'll go Golden for a second, but is that going to help him too much? Shock. Uh-oh, he's down. Claire now on the chase. Will at least be able to trade, but there's a fight happening elsewhere. Teleport coming through now as well. And Thomas Shen is locking them all down, slowing them up. Floppy forced to flash away. Does still have exhaust. Well, 2 for 1. Gravitas probably not too pleased with that, especially if it results in another objective for Direwolves. But Baron? Safa 20 seconds on the respawn. Teleport going to be available.
Kalrock actually throwing both of his Ezreal skill shots and missing the Baron. If you're a keen eye for League of Legends, you can often see spells thrown in the fog of war. Ezreal, I believe, is one of those champions. So it was interesting. I'm wondering if that's what he was thinking when he did that. Gravitas know that it's being done now, however.
Guncrab getting a lot of engages on this Leona right now, but is this one a bit too much of an engage? Well, Claire has jumped right on in there. Viego gets the first kill. It's all a bit messy at the moment, but the arrow comes through from the Silas, and that's going to lock Safa down long enough to essentially prompt his death as Floppy tries to escape solo. Does have the backup of Akano. But again, another fight that doesn't quite go the way of Gravitas.
Yeah, this one happening next to the Baron though, right? So it's just going to be the objective secured, and it should just be a confirmed snowball here, really. Every single time that we've seen a skirmish, it's gone just slightly the way of Direwolves. The gold has continued to grow because they're building waves and then they're fighting, and they're bringing Gravitas to them. And, you know, time and again, it does feel like we are just seeing Gravitas put up a fight, definitely show defiance. I would say like Safa, for example, has been mechanically very good in this game. It's just the decisions and the little details that are far too difficult to contend with on the Direwolves front that is giving them those gold advantages. And, you know, just like this, Guncrab has been hitting those abilities, hitting those skill shots, forces Kyosei to ult away, so reliant on those resets. And in the meantime, you know, Claire has flashed the wall, has basically just taken down the rest of Gravitas by himself. Karok has altered the Dragon Pit instead of the Karma, but still has enough damage to confirm the rest of it.
Now, Leona is one of those surprisingly tanky champions as well. You start putting a couple of shots in, you think, oh, we're doing damage. And then she presses that W button, Eclipse online, and you stop doing damage. And Guncrab survives for a lot longer, I think, than what Gravitas was expecting. Sort of pulled Thomas Shen into an awkward position. He got flanked by a couple of players, and at that point, the fight's over. So, Direwolves playing this one out nicely, and that gold lead has ballooned out to 8,000 now. So suddenly, the 3 dragons and the soul point that Gravitas had earlier doesn't really feel as impactful when you have to wonder how is Gravitas going to get a soul at this point.
And this may be an opinion that does fall to mixed reviews, but I've been saying it since draft. I'm just not sold on this Ashe existing at all right now in competitive League of Legends. Like, just put yourself into the shoes of Thomas Shen right now. You don't want to deal with any of the opposing champions. They all beat you. Like, you're just there to press your ult button. And because your support is a Karma, not even like a Tahm Kench, you know, or something that can actually keep you alive and allow you to do your work, then you're just suffering. And he is absolutely suffering. I think it was exceptional that he was 1-0-2 at a point. And I think we've just, like, actually found what is much more normal in that he's been punished. And, like, if the goal for the draft was to find some engage, then the Karma going into the support role could probably change, you know? Flex that to a solo lane like other teams do. Other drafts have done. And give yourself that Guncrab Leona, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can see the amount of work that Guncrab's been getting. I think he's been really, really good on the engages so far for Direwolves. Solar Flares have been landing. Zenith Blades have been landing. And he's been enabling Kalrock to do the dirty work. Player's been a bit of a maniac himself, getting into some nice flanking angles. It's a nice look from Direwolves. Well, obviously, we said that you can't draw too many conclusions when they're playing with a substitute support in a sense, but it's still sort of coming together, and that's kind of what you want to be seeing. Total gold looking good for Claire.
Absolutely is. A Floppy, unfortunately, is about 1,800 gold behind his own support opponent. So absolutely no gold in the hands of the Karma. Just doing what he can, surviving with what he has. And Claire, you know, one thing that we haven't really said, and I think we should mention, because it's probably understated even mentioning it this late, as Equalizer goes down, is that this is Claire's meta, right? He's a carry player that's been given carry champions finally, not just top lane champions. He's not going to be playing Ornn. This is the Claire meta for top lane, and that's really exciting for Direwolves and Direwolves fans.
Well, we're starting to get a bit of a taste test of it. This might be the entree of what's to come for the rest of the season, and that certainly would be something I'll be looking out for. I think Gravitas is in that awkward spot now where you have an Ashe, and you want to look for engages, but you kind of feel like even if you hit the arrow, you're not going to kill someone. And ultimately, you're going to be out of position trying to follow up on that arrow. So you don't even almost want to fire the arrow. It's a really rough spot to be in. But I'm just not sure that Gravitas has the damage output consistently enough to blow someone up straight away. Particularly if the arrow is going to connect onto the likes of Claire or Guncrab. I mean, Kalrock is an Ezreal, so he should never be getting hit by the arrow. And Shock has a spell shield. So you look to only, then you see a Zhonya. You think, okay, well, where's the impact? Where's the value coming out of this arrow?
Yeah, it's a fair point, right? And that's actually the only thing that the composition of Gravitas has. So for us to even think about, do they have enough damage to kill someone after the arrow, is a worrying trend. Another thing just quickly as well, we saw this yesterday, I believe it was Dragku, or it might have just been the Chiefs game. Leonas are rushing the Abyssal Mask. It's an exceptional item that I just don't think we've seen enough of it right now. 15% increased damage to champions that you put immobility on. A champion like Leona with constant stuns, actually the most broken item. You're giving 15% damage amplification to everyone else on your team by just being your champion and actually like just not sucking.
And that's for 5 seconds after the Immobilize comes down as well. So
yeah,
if you land a Solar Flare, like the fight's over before the damage has gone back to normal. Yeah, definitely looks like it's working out for Guncrab. Now we get into a rough spot for the Gravitas roster as the siege starts to begin in earnest and Ezreal becomes even more annoying. Has finished off the Cyrilda's Grudge as well. Slowing enemies with the autos, with the Qs. Just a pesky champion all around. It's never fun to be on a team against an Ezreal, in my opinion.
Especially not when they have a lot of kills, or even just the 3 items that you highlighted. Mid lane basically is just going to break. Where is the line drawn? It has to be thrown with an Ashe arrow to start this. They're grouped at the very least right now. But you've got Claire in front, Guncrab in front, and Kalrock sitting back. You've also got Shock threatening the ultimate at any time. If you throw the Ashe arrow, the Nocturne can just turn the lights out. And you can't even really get confirmation on if it hits. So it's a very dicey situation to find yourself in, and I don't think we're going to be playing for a Mountain Soul anytime soon. I think we're just playing to deny the Mountain Soul away from Gravitas, taking the objectives as they spawn. The name of the game is mostly going to be around the Baron, using the Baron to try and close the game out. Right now, you know, Kalrock has been doing a decent amount of work. They have sieged well enough to break the mid lane turret, but Baron basically confirms inhibitors, and I think that's the last thing that Direwolves are really looking for, that final nail in the coffin potentially for ways they close a game.
Gravitas are essentially relegated to their base. Full vision control on the bottom side of the map for Direwolves. A little bit starting to creep in there for Gravitas up on their blue side jungle, but it's difficult to even get information right now for Gravitas, and that makes life so scary, particularly when you're against champions that have such high pick potential. You're looking at a Nocturne being able to jump all the way across the map. If a Leona's hiding in a bush somewhere, she's gonna stun you for eternity, it feels like. And Guncrab's so confident, he's just gonna walk into his opponent's jungle on his own, do a bit of warding.
Just a bit of an exploration as you do. Nocturne
ultimate.
Paranoia.
And I'd say I'd be pretty scared if I was Gravitas right now. They're going to try and fight. They're going to try and do what they can, or at least Akano or Will. He's in the mix. Now Thomas Shen is as well, and this is where the damage starts to come online. If Ash can auto freely, then maybe something can happen for Gravitas. A flash forced out.
Kalrock's
Shock
here.
is away. Kalrock on the side. Someone needs to deal with him. The perfect player is Safa. Keep your eyes on that fight at the top of the map. He doesn't seem to be able to do it. And in the meanwhile, the rest of the engagement goes cleanly the way of Direwolves. So even if Safa would have got the pick onto Kalrock, it would not have mattered. That is the ace for Direwolves, and that might well be the game.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy ace from them in the end as well. You know, basically just found ourselves the left-right good night. It was a Nocturne ultimate to kick it off. But at the end of the day, that wasn't going to be the be-all, end-all. They were maybe looking for a pick into Baron. Gravitas' response to that, however, was to take the fight. And I think recognizing the game state was something that they've done correctly in the almost insurmountable. And try as they might, you know, I think Safa mechanically a good game. They just cannot contend with the powerhouse of Claire and the strength of Kalrock on this Ezreal.
Yeah, massive, massive game from Claire. Great to see. And a good little pick-me-up for Direwolves after yesterday. Obviously, starting off with that loss against the Pentanet boys. But, you know, the expectation was there for Direwolves to come through to today and sort of bounce back from that. I had my questions as to whether or not Gravitas could double down. Obviously, a nice win yesterday against Legacy, but I had my questions as to whether or not it would be a consistent thing for Gravitas or whether it was going to be a flash in the pan. And it sort of seems that obviously going up against a bit more of a tried and true opponent in the Direwolves, despite the fact that they have that sub in the support role, Gravitas isn't quite at that level yet.
Yeah, lots of promise, but perhaps just not enough yet, but still lots that we could see for the future. Mac,
Hey,
talk to us.
I'm talking. What's up?
What's up?
Break down the game, man.
Oh, yeah, the
Isn't
game
that
was
your
pretty
job
good.
here?
Well, your job was actually to break down the game, and you did that very exceptionally because I actually wrote down there was a point, Rusty, where you picked up on some either dark tech or advanced tech where Ezreal was using some skill shots in the Baron pit, and you thought they might have been doing that to fake out the Baron and force a fight, but then they just went for the Baron anyway. But that got me thinking, damn, Rusty, he's smart.
Thanks,
Anyway,
man. That's
no
why I
worries.
get paid the normal amount of bucks.
I love a good normal amount of bucks. Now, that was a good game. Direwolves, you know, making it look very easy towards the end. They just knew exactly what they were doing in terms of target priority in the team fight. It was a close affair, though, throughout the mid-game and the early game. You know, Gravitas had me thinking, okay, they're in this. They're going to make this happen. But then as time went on, it sort of just went more and more progressively towards the Direwolves' favor. And they took the W. So they're on the board. And Gravitas, unfortunately, are not going to be taking the 2-0 clean start to split 2. But it was a good and entertaining match, all things considered, as we have a look here at the Send It replay provided by DoorDash.
Yeah, I think there was a key turning point in that battle as well. It was a little bit before this point for Gravitas, but it was around the time where I was saying, Gravitas is looking kind of good right now, and then just 3 or 4 of them died. And you were like, oh, all right, never mind that. Direwolves ahead again. So it's not like there was no chance. It wasn't out of the realms of possibility for Gravitas. They were looking good in the early game. It was just some of those decision-making errors in the mid-game that gave Direwolves a pretty strong advantage, which they never let go of.
Yeah, I think there's a world where if they potentially change the draft here as well, Gravitas, it could be a different story in this game. And I think that actually says a lot, because that's not something that we would have even said last split. The improvements have been marked from them. It's just at this point, you know, particularly at this point in the game, Akali's not even winning those 1v1s outright against someone like an Ezreal. That's how you know the game's just done for.
Yeah, that fight in particular, you can see that Direwolves, they were on the back foot and knew exactly when they were grouped up enough to completely turn the tides, and did so perfectly, and of course the game ended from that point. So, having a look at the stats, anything in particular other than the amount of objectives there taken by Direwolves that really stands out to you? Like 16k gold lead almost?
I think it was very clearly a top lane battle this game.
That was what sort of popped up for me as well. The fact that the top damage comes through from both of the top laners, the Sylas and the Akali. You know, especially considering we've been harping on about the Ezreal a lot, and you've also got a Rumble involved. Admittedly, it's a Rumble jungle, but you know, even still, a lot of damage tends to come down from those champions. But I mean, Claire just dominated really, didn't he? And I think that kind of is referenced in the statistics at the end of the game, I feel like has to be the MVP for me from that one.
Well, you think he's the MVP. I think Nat might as well because she's got him for the interview down on the sidelines. Nat, you want to come back in and say, hey, maybe bring Claire into the conversation?
You know what? I'll just jump straight over to Claire and ask him a few questions that I have about that game. First of all, congratulations on the win for you guys. How does it feel to win today after the loss yesterday?
I think yesterday, like, it's versus PGG, right? They just came off of a good MSI performance, so we weren't expecting too much, especially considering we're playing with a sub roster right now. Today's win, though, it honestly, for me, it doesn't feel too great. I think the game was a lot messier. It took a lot longer than I think it needed to. I think I was the main reason for that. I think I entered like 2 times and made the game take a bit longer than it should have, but overall it's good to have a win in the first week, so I hope it continues.
I hope it does for you guys as well. I do want to ask how your thoughts coming out of that draft, and if Silas is a comfort pick for you.
Yeah, I definitely play a lot of Silas in solo queue. I was a mid laner before, so I do have a lot of experience playing the champ. Yeah, I think this game just looked like a good game to pick it, and I'm happy I got to play it because it is a really fun champ that I don't really get to play that often, but yeah, it was an enjoyable game.
What was the game plan for you guys? What was in your head the win condition for you?
I think we sort of knew that our skirmishing is a lot stronger because we have so many power picks. To be honest, like, our comp, some parts work together and some parts don't, but we got like pretty much Exodia in the first like rotation. We got Ezreal, Leona, like Rumble, and we knew like these picks were going to be so strong. The Silas kind of came in at the end and solidified a different identity that we could have, which is playing through the side lane with our Nocturne and Silas together. But overall, I think the game, it was just a bit messy. It felt a bit awkward because we couldn't really siege with the champs that we had. So once we took Baron and we pushed them to their towers, we were like, oh, like we kind of need to wait for objective fights to happen to win the game. But I think we like slowly chipped turrets down pretty well, and then eventually we did win the game without Drakes.
I do also have to comment, the team fighting, you say it looked like a messy game, but the team fighting looked a lot more solid than yesterday. What would you put that down to? Communication or draft?
I mean, PGG is just a much better team. That's all there is to it. I think yesterday we played the first fight like we knew what we wanted to do, but a player like PGG played in a certain way where it disrupted what we wanted to do, and we got confused in the moment. And so, like, if it was any other team, that team fight, first Drake team fight in the PGG game yesterday would have been a complete wipe. Like, we would have aced them 5-0. But like, PGG is just a good team. They know what to do, and it turned out the way it did because they were just better in that moment.
Well, look, hopefully I do see you guys get a little bit better on those team fights, feel a little bit more confident in your play, but congratulations again on the win today.
Thank you, thank you.
There you have it. So, nice little insight, and it's that Pentanet are just better, it seems. Now, no, Direwolf was doing a really good job there. You can see that they have their head screwed on, what do you call it, almost the Exodia in the first round of draft there, managing to get the 3 champs that they really wanted, so they really couldn't have asked for too much more in this matchup. Now, that brings us towards the end. Any final points for you guys before we do start to move towards match number 3 of the day?
If you're not wearing pink, stop watching the broadcast because you can't sit with us.
Oh, wow. Well,
I like
think
the
you
reference.
should keep watching the broadcast because we love you all in chat. Make sure you use exclamation DoorDash.
Most of you.
Oh, I think, what was that? Oh, player that delivered. Player that delivered. Of course, the player that delivered. There's no surprises here. Of course, it was Claire, the man that was on your screen just before. He's up there again, and he did such a damn good job up there in the top lane on the Silas here. For game 2 of the day.
I just want to jump in, sorry, quickly. In that interview, Claire's like, oh, I think I entered about twice. He only died twice. He called every depth of his an int, pretty much.
Good one, State.
I mean, he's hard on himself. He's very hard on himself, I will say. I've seen it and worked with Claire in the past. He tries to hold himself to the highest possible standards, so maybe they weren't full ints. Maybe they were. There was only 2 of them, thankfully.
Beautiful. Well, Just before we jump into the break, remember that he's taken home a $100 DoorDash voucher. So he's going to be extremely excited with that. Now enjoy this music from Warner as we do go to another break. Coming up just after it, it is going to be Mammoth taking on the Chiefs. Let's see how both these teams go.
Start
They will be
Dragon here
contested.
as well. Solar Flare is a good one. Lands right on top of Mr. Floppy, and he is out of the picture straight away, which is bad news for Ash. Crystal Arrow does connect nicely, and Gun Crab cops the front of it, coming through from the Viego. Thomas Shed and Kiyose are just